Now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down. And I'd like to take a minute, just sit right there. I'll tell you how I became the prince of a town called Bel Air.
It all started in the summer of 2000 in Flushing, Queens, New York. I had one mission: to work at a gym, work out, and help people. Pretty simple, right? So, as I head out that day looking for a job, my last place was the YMCA in Flushing. I had given my last resume to the gym person, and they've told me that they're not hiring. So, all disappointed, I'm walking down the stairs, and then I see the office that says camp office. And I said, you know what? Perhaps they're hiring. So, I walked in and I saw Sylvia, who was the camp coordinator. And I asked her, hey, by the way, are you guys hiring? And she said, actually, we are. Do you have a resume? And I said, I don't, but I do have my USB. Do you mind printing my resume out? She looked at me and she said, wait, you're looking for a job and you don't have a resume? And now you're asking me to print it out for you? Wow, that's pretty bold. You have an interview. So, as most people say, it's all history from there. Basically, I went up the ranks from camp counselor in charge of 10 kids at a camp to after school, and then promoted to group leader, then promoted to specialist, and promoted to run my first camp. And when I got promoted to run an after school program at a Beacon, I had Tina Kreisel, who was the director at that time, who sat down with me and said, I think you're going to like Springfield College. And mind you, I had looked at that college before because it was well known for being the YMCA Professional Studies. And when she said that, it really inspired me. So I took my car and I drove 3 hours to Springfield, Mass, and no one was there. So I went to the youth development department and I said, I just drove 3 hours, no one's here, but I'm going to write a note. So Susan, who then became my mentor, I saw her office and I wrote a note and I shared my story and I said that I've been looking for a degree in youth development and I know that Springfield College has one. When can I graduate? Here are my credits. I had dropped out of college. I'm inspired to go back. I'm 28 and I want to know when I could graduate. A day later, or a day or two later, I get an email from Susan and she mentioned your graduation date is going to be 2006. At that time it was 2005 and I said, good deal. So I packed my bags and I went to Springfield, Mass, where I knew no one. What I like to point out here is like, we just don't arrive at a current position by luck. But I had to make a decision to leave everything that was comfortable, head out to a school in a city I knew nothing about and I didn't know one soul. So, long story short, my goal was to just be an after school director and I ended up getting trained to become a CEO. That's the story of how I arrived at my current position. And the position that I have now is a CEO of my own company. And to tell you the truth, the reason why is because I needed to change myself. This is not a story where I put down nonprofits, but it's a story of a focus, a specific focus in the field of youth development. And I'll share a little bit why. What I want to change in this field is what I've been telling my staff for the past 10 years. We are not in the industry of food, we're not in the industry of retail, we're in the industry of souls. And it's a position that we should never take lightly, but take with much pride and much honor and much responsibility. So, what I want to change is to validate youth development. And who's in youth development? These are your teachers, to principals. These are community-based organizations from counselors all the way up to director executives. This is also the field of parents and families because we're all champions in a child's life. And what I want to do is I want to take the field of youth development to the world. Why superstars? Because they are, because you are. And it is a word that I've been saying since 2000. And yes, it does come from the movie Superstars. And with the same meaning that we all have a spark. We were all given a specific, unique mission. And it is truly our responsibility to find out what that is and really apply it and be a light to the world. So that's my dream, and that's what I want to change. I want to validate the field, and I certainly want youth developers to know that they are the champions and the superstars in the eyes of the children. To really allow youth developers from top down to allow them to be the pillars in their community and not to make it about myself, but to really allow them to shine in what they're doing. So it's really providing uh, programs that are going to help them um, achieve their goals. So in my career, I truly want to impact, and I'll say right here, and I will publish this, that I want to impact 1 million youth developers. And I hope that is you who is listening. And I hope that I'm able to serve, and I hope that I am able to give something of value or at least add value to what you're already doing with the youth. Couple of mentors growing up. First was my mother. She was a teacher in Peru. I was born in Lima, Peru, and I'll never forget my mom taking me to her school. She taught her at a high school, all boys, and I remember sitting at her desk pretending to be a teacher and seeing all the high school boys having such respect for my mother. And I remember probably at that time I was 5 or 6, I can't remember, but I remember saying, wow, my mom has such an influence, in high school boys. Like, who has that, And from childhood, I've always seen my mom as a very, very strong person. Although she might not think herself, but she is very strong and a woman that speaks with convictions and speaks with authority. Besides my mom growing up, I think as a teen, I looked really more into superstars. So, gotta say, Janet Jackson was one of those superstars. I thought her Rhythm Nation album was so powerful. And this is back in the 80s where I believe music was about changing the world. Music was about making an impact. Music was what moved me. There's a song called This House that truly changed my outlook from being a bratty middle schooler who was only focused on herself and her issues to really looking outside to see what can I do? How can I impact the world? And from that point I wanted just to change the world. So music, especially in the 90s, really um, inspired me. Nowadays, my current mentor is Sean Stevenson, who is a nutritionist and he runs the number one podcast in the nation. He wrote, as I mentioned earlier, the book that I'm currently rereading. I actually read this, but it's called Sleep Smarter. The reason why he's my mentor is because not only is he in the field, um, not only did he inspire me to go and get my certification as a nutritional therapy consultant as I was launching this business, but it was because he was never the aggressive person out there telling you what to do, what to eat, and how to do it. But his approach, it's very much facts. And it's really much about empowering his audience to make good decisions. So I really appreciate that about his style and how he runs his podcast. And I really aspire to be that kind of host, I guess, with our upcoming uh, youth developer YouTube channel that's coming up soon. And maybe by this time it's already up and running. But it's something that I aspire to be a host and an interviewer like him, because he has a passion, he has the knowledge, but he invites people to his podcast to add value, to really, really span the movement of nutrition and the importance. And one of the other reasons why I love this podcast and who Sean Stevenson is because he just doesn't focus on nutrition and food, but he really looks at the whole um, human being, which includes spirit, mind, and body, which is the three pillars of YSuperstars. I have to say that is my husband. And although we don't agree and see everything eye to eye, we truly are educators. At heart, we love to teach and we love to see those aha moments in a child's eyes, and not just the child, but just and anyone who we're mentoring. I am praying and doing everything in my power to expand my social support. And one of the reasons why we're starting our youth developer YouTube channel, because I want it to be a platform for youth developers. I want it to be a place where people can interact. For a teacher who wants to become a principal to see a principal interview and get the ins and out about his or her role. So I am looking to expand my social support and to really develop a mastermind group of youth developers. Besides my husband, I have to add my sister, who has been supporting me with the dream of YSuperstars from the very beginning. Even when I started, when I wanted to launch back in 2009, but a couple of doors closed. So I truly, my sister is one of my best friends, and not just a supporter because she's a family member, but because she truly does believe in what we're trying to achieve with all of our outlets in YSuperstars. And this is an important question of how often do I play? We go out camping and we like to rent cabins and pitch tents and go for hikes. Being out there in mountains where we could be reminded of how small we really are and just how big this world is and just how big life and purpose is, to really take a step back. The reason why I mentioned that this is an important question is because that is something that I never pay attention. And what I believe a lot of youth developers don't really focus, which is self-care, which is it's sad because, as I was saying, we're in the industry of souls and we need to be recharged. We need to take two steps back in order to be creative, in order to develop and design brand new programs for our kids, for our children, and new materials and new resources for our staff, for our people, for our teams. So, this is a question that I'm always going to be challenged, and I constantly have to remind myself and say, have I played today? Have I disconnected? Have I stopped to really take care of Patty? Well, my mission, and I know it took a few weeks for me to break it down, but it's my mission is to build and create an environment of growth and unity for social change. I believe that life, if you're not growing, you're dying. So growing, and not just like in my character, but just growing in my appreciation is just so important. So I am a lifelong learner, and I truly want to create unity. I want to be that bridge to connect people. And again, one of the reasons why our channel is so important and so precious to me because it is about finding that mastermind group. And I have three things that I like to finish with that it's in my life statement or things that I want to get to. I want to dance as if no one was watching. I want to host as if it's the last banquet. And I want to listen as if I'm the only one in the room.